Hey, this is the McGuire Review, and we're going to be taking a look at Pixel Glory from Zafty Games. This is a 13 plus, 30 minutes, and 2 to 4 players on this one. You know, I've always been really attracted to these 8-bit style games. Again, I'm going to give a shout out to my boys over at Brotherwise Games for Boss Monster. This review is not about their game, but that's really why I actually picked up this one, Pixel Glory by Zafty Games, is because it had that similar 8-bit style to it, and I really like that. I don't know, maybe it's just the old school gamer in me, but I really like that art style, and they put that into card games. So let me do a quick run through here of the components. This one here is the tiebreaker staff. So this is actually kind of passed amongst the players from turn to turn. And if you happen to get some type of tie in some way, it's mainly during the town phase. And I'll explain there's 2 phases to this game. You can use this staff to actually break that tie and say, okay, I win because I've got the tiebreaker staff. What you'll find here is each one of the players will select a color, and these cards are numbered from 1 to 9, and I'll explain what you need those for here in a second. So let's say we're playing a 2-player game, and I'll take blue, and I'll take red. What you're going to find up front here are the 3 basic attacks in this game. So we've got your fire, your earth, and your water attack. Over here, you're going to find your spells for the game, which these spells will utilize these 3 different basic attacks, they call them. And then you're going to have your enemies here, and you're going to have 2 cards that's basically going to be, one is your Dungeon Keeper, and the other is your Dungeon Lord. And these are pretty much just more difficult bosses to fight when you actually battle your way through the dungeon and you fight your standard enemies here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to explain kind of the phases that we go through here. So the first thing that we're actually going to do is the first phase of the game, which they call the town phase. And that's much like an auction phase. Really what's going to happen is, and you're going to have a various different setup depending on how many players are playing the game. But for a 2-player game, you're going to take all of your spells and you're going to shuffle those up, reveal 3 of those spells. You're going to put them down. And you're going to go back and forth, really, and you're going to look at your cards in your hand. And again, these cards are numbered from 1 to 9. And you're essentially going to be bidding on the cards that are out in front of you. So you'll look at those 3 cards and you'll say, okay, this one's stone form. Anytime you would deal damage this turn, deal an additional 1 damage. And this card actually will come with 1 of the earth. And you can see that there on that card. This one here is a water card, and it draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. So each spell has some type of ability, and there's different things that they'll do. And at the bottom here, they'll list how many of the basic cards you can claim if you actually get this spell card. So this one comes with 2 water, and this is a fire card, and this one actually comes with 3 fire. So the players are going to look at those cards, and let's say I really want this light card. Draw 2 cards, and it comes with 3 fire. So let's say I really want that one, and I'm the blue player. Well, I may not want to put down like my 8 or my 9 because we've just kind of started off in the town phase. But I kind of want that card, so I'm gonna secretly choose 7. And let's say my opponent, the green player, says, well, I kind of want that fire card too, but the stone form sounds pretty good. I think I want the stone form, but I don't really know what my opponent's going to go with, but I'm going to put down 8. So I'm going to choose 8. I'm going to go in strong because I really want that stone form. I really want that stone form spell. So at this point, 2 players are going to turn over their auction cards, or their cards are using part of this town phase, and the blue got a 7 and the green got an 8. Well, the green wins with that 8. So at that point in time, the green player would get to select which one of those spells they would want. And obviously, the green player really wanted that stone form, so they're going to pick up and they're going to select that spell. Now, both of these cards are now out. So you got to kind of think of that as you go through your town phase, because if you throw a big card out and someone else beats you, you've lost that big card. The cards are completely out now from the rounds. Now you have whatever's left in your hand. So obviously as you go through the rounds, you're only going to have 9 spells when you're done. So you're going to have 9 of the spells, and then various amounts of the basic attacks as you go through this town phase. So since I was the only other player, I would now get to select which one of these spells that I want. Okay, I wanted the fire spell originally, so lucky me, the other player didn't choose that, so I get to claim and keep that fire spell. And now the other spell that's left kind of gets discarded, and we populate 3 more spells. And again, this is going to go for essentially 9 rounds, because my red here came with 3, so I would have chose 3 of these red cards on my turn, and the other player had one earth. They would have chose 1, and those would be our deck. Once it's over, you're going to take the deck that you have and you're going to shuffle that deck up, and now that's going to become your plain deck. You're going to set that to the side. So now what you're going to want to do is get all the rest of these spells kind of out of your way, and anything that's left from a spell perspective is kind of discarded from the game and it's no longer used. You're going to get all these out of your way. Those are no longer used. And now you've built your essential deck that you're going to play with. So now what we're going to want to do is set up our dungeon. And for a 2-player game, we're going to need 11 cards. So we're going to draw 11.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
And you'll see that there's quite a few extra cards, but we're going to not use those for this game. Set them aside. So it gives you a little bit of variability of what's going to be in your dungeon. You're then going to take your dungeon keeper and you're going to shuffle that into your deck. And then the next thing you're going to do is take your dungeon lord, which is the boss of the dungeon, and you're going to put him on the very bottom of the deck. And then you're going to set that out, flip over 3 monsters for your dungeon, and this is where your wooden tokens are going to come into hand. You'll see at the bottom of each one of these, this is the Phoenix. And it says, here we go again. Some of these actually do have an ability that's listed here, as well as what they have weakness to. So this one says it has weakness to water, and it's worth 2 victory points. It has 13 health. And all that there is right on the front of that card. I'll have pictures up close here to show that. And what you're going to want to do is use these here to actually build the health. So 13, so we'll give it 10. 11, 12, 13, and you're going to do that for each one of these monsters depending on how much health that they have. These white tokens here are what we call combo points, and I'll explain those here in a second. So let's say that it's my turn, and I'm going to go first here.
So I'm going to draw 4 cards from my deck. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
And when it's my turn, I'm going to now decide how to use these cards in my hand to attack the monsters that are in the dungeon. Now, there is one other rule. It's something called a reserve, where you can put one of the cards from your hand into a reserve, and you can keep it there, secret. And really the purpose that it serves is it's a kind of a secret attack when you might need it later in the game. So let's say you pull a really, really good spell on your first draw. You may want to take that really good spell and just tuck it away into your reserve and hold it until maybe some of these other monsters start to get less health, and you can kind of come in for the kill and get a monster and claim those victory points. What's interesting about this game is every time it's your turn, you got to use all the cards that are in your hand. And generally that's going to be 4 cards. Well, you may not be able to kill a monster right off the bat with the cards that are in your hand. So let's say for this example, I have Aqua Breath, I have Rock Throw, and I have 2 of the basic blue attacks. So Aqua Breath, draw 1 card, deal 1 damage to each monster that's out in front of you. Rock Throw just deals straight up 3 damage, and your basic attacks, whether they're water, earth, or fire, just do 1 damage. Well, none of that is enough to kill any of the monsters that are out here. I mean, the lowest health guy is 10, and I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I can draw 1 card. So let's say I did. This one allows me to deal 2 damage, which would take me to 8. So that's not enough to actually take out any monster. So you might say, you know, if I went that route and I played all those cards, I have 8 damage that I can do. Well, I have to apply that 8 damage to the monsters that are out in front of me. I probably don't want to apply all 8 damage to this monster that has 10, because that'd drop him to only 2 health. Which means when it's my opponent's turn, they can very easily kill this monster and maybe even be able to kill something else when they draw their 4 cards, because they may draw more spells that do higher amounts of damage. So let's say that I decided to spread my 8 points of damage across these monsters to allow it to give more of a chance for myself maybe upon my next turn to be able to take out some of these monsters, and my opponent doesn't have the ability to maybe, you know, off these monsters, because we got a 13 and a 13 and a 10. So let's say that I just apply, of my 8, let's say I take 3 from this monster, and I take 2 from this monster, being 5, and then I have 3 more damage to take, and let's say I take let's just take 3 more from this monster here. So now that's where it lands and my turn is over. Now, I wasn't able to kill a monster on my turn. What that means is I'm able to get a combo point. And a combo point, once I get 3 of them, is kind of like an auto kill. So when I get 3 combo points and it's my turn, and if I was to have 3 combo points, I can immediately just off one of these monsters. Now that may be very important once you get further in the game. The other thing that I can do with combo points is that if I can cash in my 3 combo points, I'm able to draw up to 4 cards. So that's the 2 different things you can do with combo points. You can either draw 4 cards, or you can off immediately one of the monsters that are out on the board in front of you. So combo points can be very powerful, and it may be a strategy to actually not kill a monster on your turn and try to get a combo point, because you think around that next turn you might have a stronger monster, maybe worth more points. They're able to take out and gain the victory points for it. That's really where the combo points will come in. Now let's say on my turn I was actually able to kill one of the monsters. If that happens, I don't get a combo point. I actually gain the monster, and I would gain the victory points listed on that monster. And then I would be able to take my discard pile, the cards that I'd used for that round, and I actually get to, if I want to, shuffle them back into my main deck. Now, that's only if I kill a monster. If I don't kill a monster, I do not get to shuffle the cards I used for that round back into my main deck. They have to stay off to the side in the discard pile. So that's really the gameplay and how a game round would work. Now you're obviously, once you kill monsters, you're going to be taking them off the board, claiming them. You're going to be repopulating monsters from the monster deck, and you're going to drill through that monster deck all the way to get to the very end, and you get to that big dungeon lord. And once that dungeon lord is defeated, that will be the end of the game. And at that point, you're going to take all the dungeon monsters that you've defeated over the course of the game. You're going to add up their victory points, and whoever has the highest is going to be the winner. So that's Pixel Glory. You know, the one thing that I can say about this game is give it a chance, because I'll be honest, I opened the rule book up and I read through the rules, and I kind of got the mechanics of the game and how it would play out. You know, I didn't really know. I'll be honest. I don't want to give the game a bad review, because the game ended up being actually really fun. But just reading through the rule book, I was just kind of, it just didn't feel like it would be a really good game. But once I actually sat down and I played it with one of my buddies over lunch, we had a great time. I mean, it's definitely a beer and pretzels type game. We had a good time playing the game. It was fun, and I'll tell you, I know a game is fun when once you play it, a few hours after you've played it, you kind of have that itch to want to play it again. And we both definitely had that. We definitely wanted to get it back on the table and give it another shot and actually play it again, because we had a good time on the first round and it was a fun game. So that's Pixel Glory. If you run into it, I'm sure they'll be at Gen Con as well. I will be at Gen Con. I'm gearing up for that. Click that like button below. Hit that subscribe to join the McGuire clan. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time. Now let's say that on my turn I was ably actually